Hello, Facebook. Let's see if this is going. I can't tell. It disconnected me. And then it put me back on. And it said internet connection was poor. Okay, so Facebook is notifying me that we're live. So I have a new Mac, finally. My last Mac died the day after my former medical school dean, William Strample, was arrested last year. And with living in Grand Cayman, it just wasn't, it didn't work out until we got back into the U.S. to get a new Mac computer. And so I'm excited about that, but I try to go on live there via the Mac, but the browser isn't supported. So I think I have to download Chrome in order to be able to do live on my new computer. So anyway, if you are hopping in here with me, thanks for joining me. I've been wanting to come on here and do a live video for the last couple of weeks as things have continued to develop. But my family, my kids, first my son and then my daughter, came down with common cold symptoms, and we had just relocated to Jacksonville, Florida after living a nomadic lifestyle for a month. After experiencing black mold in Grand Cayman, Gaming Islands. So the last thing we really needed was a global pandemic on top of everything else. However, life doesn't ask us how it's going to move forward. So if you're tuning in here with me, thanks for joining me. I'd love to know that you're tuning in, and I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So feel free to comment and share that with me. I'm going to try to look at my computer to see the comments, and bear with me since this is the first time that I'm doing this. I'm on my phone and I've got two computers, so hopefully I can get this working good. Anybody who knows my journey knows I've gone through a lot in life. I almost feel, and I'm very cautious in what I say these days, because life has shown me when you ask God what's next, sometimes you wish you wouldn't have asked. I've gone through a lot in my life, and everything that I've experienced in my life in the first 38 years of my life, I feel that it's helped to prepare me for this moment. It also has helped, I'm looking at my computer, it's also helped to prepare me to speak into your life during this time. For those who know me, back in 2010, I was hit by a semi-truck at 65 miles per hour. And I was where I was at the time of my accident because I spoke up against abuse in medicine, which you are seeing publicly quite a bit by healthcare workers who are working the front lines right now. And as I went to bed last night, I thought it was somewhat sombering, I think would be the right word, to think about where I was 10 years ago today after my accident. And I think about people who are going through many of the similar things that I experienced 10 years ago after a near-fatal traumatic accident. I experienced an accident that wasn't my fault. Kind of like this pandemic is nobody's fault. I experienced having my entire life changed in a matter of moments, from being a doctor in my postdoctoral training to seeing my life completely fall apart. And it completely changed me. Those moments in time completely changed me as a person. It took 10 years to get me to where I am today. But who I was 10 years ago is not who I am today. It's been an arduous journey of healing. And I think back to 10 years ago when I was in bed, right at this time, 10 years ago, and I think about how I felt all alone. And my friend Debbie messaged me yesterday, and she mentioned people who may feel like they're all alone, whether they're self-quarantined whether they're in a hospital bed and they don't know their fate, or their fate is becoming more clear. I know how terrible that feeling is. It's still palpable. I can still feel how palpable that darkness was 10 years ago. Because of this accident, which caused me so much loss, I can think about people today who have not gone through similar experiences, and I can empathize with them because I lost my health. Before going to medical school, I was a certified personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine and the American Council of Exercise, and I was also a certified group fitness instructor prior to that. Preventative medicine and exercise for me was a huge coping mechanism. My dad, he died when he was just 53 at my base hospital the first week of my third year medical school. And he had preventative risk factors. He smoked, he was overweight. He knew what he needed to do, but he didn't get a second chance to implement what he knew he needed to do to better his quality of life. For me, after witnessing my dad's death and feeling him, and also being gifted with spiritual insight, I was able to be witness to him accepting his fate and to him leaving me with some now comforting last sentences that were deeply hard to embrace then in 2008. But my dad wasn't all alone. He had his family around him, and I think about how I felt all alone in my bed. Even though there were people around me within a close proximity, I felt all alone. I felt that darkness, and I think about people who may be hooked up to a vent right now, and they're all alone, and it's painful to think about. For me, in that space, that's where I gained my faith. And witnessing my dad's passing, preventative medicine and fitness and exercise became more of a coping mechanism for me. It was also a way that I numbed my pain, and my accident took that away from me. I spent 7 months in bed in pain. My career was stripped from me. Here I was a doctor. I worked extremely hard to become a doctor, to earn my degree as a doctor. And because of abuse in medicine, because of speaking up about abuse in medicine, I was placed where I was at the time of my accident. I lost my career as I knew it. My health was lost as I knew it. My finances were taken from me as I knew it. And I was left with a lot of pain. A lot of pain, unspeakable fear. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just continued to see one thing after the next be stripped from me. And I'll continue to share more of my journey. In 2017, I thought I completed a book manuscript, but then life continued to happen. And I came to realize that that pause it had a purpose. And the journey that I share in my book has become full circle. Even this pandemic will be part of my book, because I went from abuse and brokenness to seeing how everything came full circle, to see justice, to see people exercising their voice and stepping past fear and speaking up. So I'll continue to share bits and pieces of what's going into my manuscript. I have 3 or 4 more chapters to add to it, and it'll be done. And I never would have thought that I'd come back to the U.S., especially the way I did, and then a pandemic would happen, and I'd be able to tie that in to the message that I have to share with the world, and to hopefully help bring greater strength and healing and resilience and hope. I would have never thought that I'd be where I am today 10 years ago after experiencing so much loss. And like I said, as I laid my head down last night, there were so many similarities from my accident that I could see playing out with this COVID-19 pandemic. Where I was 10 years ago in that bed, feeling all alone, broken, full of fear, full of pain, because everything in my life changed in a matter of seconds, and I lost so much in a matter of seconds, and there was so much uncertainty. And I empathize with every single person who is in that space today. They don't know what's going to happen with their job. They don't know what's going to happen with their health. Health is a gift. Age, longevity is a gift. And hopefully during this pandemic, people will reflect on what they have to be grateful for. When you've gone through a journey like mine, you have no choice. You either grow bitter, or you choose a journey of healing, and you start to reflect on what life is about. And you realize very quick that it's not a guarantee, and you realize that it can all change in a matter of seconds. I wrote a couple notes down just to make sure I cover what I wanted to talk about. I think in sharing what I shared today, I hope that me joining you here today gives you hope that you can get through this. And I think for a lot of people, maybe if they're in that dark place of fear and uncertainty right now, maybe that's the best first piece of advice that I can leave you with. I remember 10 years ago being in bed, feeling broken, feeling all alone, thinking it would have been easier to die than to survive and go through what I'm going through every day. And then I also remember thinking, if I can get through this, I hope to be a voice of hope for other people. And I got through that. And you can get through this, God willing. I've had, despite having cold symptoms come through my home during the time of a pandemic, and then drinking too much orange juice because I was trying to up my vitamin C. Well, I have hypermobility syndrome, and so that wasn't a good idea because I just developed heartburn from it. Then my chest was tight and burning, which when you have a coronavirus pandemic going around and you are connected with tens of thousands of physicians who are on the front lines talking about coronavirus, COVID-19, and the symptoms, that's unpleasant to have that as a symptom. And I did a virtual doctor's appointment. I'm just going to share a few of the things that I've done recently, and I'd love to know what you're doing to keep yourself busy, which was neat. I miss my healthcare professionals back in Cayman. One of them reached out to me, and I had been thinking about her, and I had hoped to email her, and she emailed me before I could email her, and she just mentioned how much she knew that I went through in 2019 and how much my family had experienced, and now I'm back in the US and here is this pandemic, and just expressing love. And You know, when you see people who you have confided in, who have been paid for their services, but then when you hear from them, when they're no longer receiving a check from you, and to know that people genuinely care, those are the people. If trauma and pain has taught me anything, it's taught me that those are the type of people that you need to seek out. Those are the people to surround yourself by, people who genuinely care about you and who form a reciprocated relationship. To be able to find even one individual like that who genuinely cares about you, that's gold, in my opinion. It left me feeling so grateful to know that she took her time and her care to express her love when she's no longer receiving a paycheck. To be able to develop that type of relationship with somebody who you've confided in is invaluable. So that was really nice. And so we're back in the U.S., like I shared, and we don't have health insurance now. My husband had taken a temporary position, and here comes the pandemic. Great time to not have health insurance. But for those who have followed me, we also had issues when we had health insurance and dental insurance, and I advocated hard for my daughter for over 6 months to get dental care after her teeth were destroyed from black mold, and came in. And despite all of my advocacy for her, she never ended up getting the care that she needed. So health care and health insurance is only as valuable as its efficacy, and if it actually provides you the services that you need. So we did a virtual medicine appointment. I had reached out to one of my friends and former medical colleagues and shared, just some of the symptoms that we were experiencing. And even when you're trained in medicine, it helps to have somebody else's second opinion. And she encouraged me to post in one of the physician mom groups that I'm in, and I did, and that was great because I found a pediatric service. So people that don't have health care, this is something that you could potentially look into, especially at this time where there is so much uncertainty and more anxiety and fear. The place that I was recommended is called Blueberry Pediatrics. It's in Florida, and you pay $15 and then you get unlimited online virtual medical care. So we're doing our first live virtual appointment tomorrow, an intro appointment for the kids, which was exciting. And then I also ended up talking with a family medicine doctor for my symptoms, and she agreed that everything I was doing is what I should be doing. But it's just nice to hear that, especially during a time, like I said, when people are more stressed out and you're reading. I read a lot. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly researching, and then I do my best to educate and share with other people. I'm very conscientious of what I share, and in my community I've shared different articles and different posts about coronavirus, COVID-19, and I want people to know in my community that I do that with discernment. I don't share haphazardly. It's really important that people get credible information, and what I'm sharing, it's a synopsis really of what I'm seeing in groups, private groups of 10s, 20, 30,000 people who are doctors working on the front lines. So it's coming from people who are seeing this close up. And my intention in sharing, so I heard, I read an article, and I think it was with Dr. Fauci, and it talks about, government wanting to give hope to the American people. And I shared about my dad passing away earlier on this live video. And if you're just tuning in now, you can start it when it's done and see what I'm talking about after with the replay. And I remember my dad after he had his stroke, and the neurologist came in, and I saw that there was a positive Babinski sign on my dad, which wasn't a good sign. And I remember before that, asking the neurologist, how is my dad going to be? I read incessantly then too, because if there was anything I could do to help my dad, I didn't want to fail him during that time. So they said, they're like, he'll be 95% better. Not 100%, but he'll get back. He'll get back 95% of his original functioning, which was hope, but it turned out to be false hope. And I think that is a message that I want to send to the public, is that hope, it's always good to maintain hope. But you also have to have wisdom and discernment, and you have to understand that false hope can be more painful than the honest truth. And so when I share the stuff that I share within my community, I of course want people to stay encouraged and to give support, and I don't want people to lose hope, but at the same time I want people to have the facts without having a bias, because I am not making any money. I'm not gaining anything by sharing what I share. I don't want people to have false hope. I am incredibly passionate about preventative medicine. I lost 2 of the closest people to me who had preventative risk factors. Prevention for me is what's going to give me the greatest quality of life when I have a genetic connective tissue disorder. That's wisdom. Knowing what you're working with and not having it sugar-coated and not having it minimized and not denying its presence is wisdom. Now's not the time to look at failings or this should have happened or that should have happened. Now's the time to say, okay, we might have messed up. We'll go back through that and learn from that later. But right now, how do we move forward and lead forward so that we can have the best possible outcome, even when the best possible outcome can still seem very grim. Doctors need personal protective equipment, period. They need it. They don't have it. What is happening within hospitals from healthcare administration is repulsive, down to the point of abuse in medicine, and in some cases where doctors' masks are being ripped off their face, that is assault, and it's unacceptable. A doctor's training, I shared earlier, it costs $250,000 for me to become a doctor, and then that was affected by abuse in medicine. The cost of personal protective equipment does not compare to the cost that it takes to train up a physician, or then the physicians who are training the physicians that are learning. I don't understand where there's any common sense in not giving people what they need so they don't die. That's a complete failure, and there's still room for that to change. So that's how we move forward with that. We get them what they need and what they deserve, and we start treating them with respect and listening to those on the front lines who are not politicians, who are trained in healthcare, who are trained in medicine, who are scientists, who this is their expertise. This should be nonpartisan. This should not have anything to do with politics, because this virus doesn't give a crap who you are, what your background is, what you look like, what your politics are, and frankly, neither do I. I'm a very, I tend to see things from different angles, and I think you can gather things from different thought processes. I'm not one-way concrete mindset, and I think that's maturity. I also practiced listening for years. Starting back in 2015, I practiced the skill of listening. And I think that everybody could do that practice and put that into practice, and it would better the world. I also meditated on the scripture being slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to anger. And during a time like this, it has served me, up until this time, it has served me extremely well. It would serve the world well if we put that into practice. People are anxious. They're fearful. Now's the time to breathe. We need to breathe. And that's a practice that I did when I taught Pilates before going to medical school, before being a personal trainer, as a certified group fitness instructor. And I thought maybe that I would do a few minutes of that. Maybe not a few minutes, but I would just show you what I did within my classes so that you can practice breathing and feeling peace. Because despite everything that's been going on, there's a lot of stuff going on. I have been able to maintain a sense of peace, and I know that that's from a place higher than me. So, if you close your eyes with me and sit up straight and just think and relax. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs. And slowly, controlled, release that breath. And breathe in. And release. And breathe in and think about where you feel safe. And release. And breathe in. And release the need for control. And breathe in. And exhale your fear. And breathe in one more time. And exhale and know that you are not alone and that you are loved. That helped me. I hope it helped you. I'm gonna finish up here. My husband's been sending me little messages that our kids are getting antsy outside. So I hope this was helpful. I'll come back on. I'll do a little bit of interaction within the comments from this post, from this live post. And I'll do my best to help support you through this time with the compassion and the empathy that I have gained by going through the journey that I have personally walked. May God bless you and keep you. May you stay well. And may you always know that you're not alone and that you are loved.